Ugh! So there's this old saying. It goes, never meet your heroes. Our idols rarely turn out to be the people we imagine them as. We tell them, I'm your biggest fan, only to find out, well, they hear that all the time. We admire them, only to find out it's kind of annoying. Or possibly worst of all, you could just discover that your idol isn't the person you thought they were. They're actually pretty disappointing. But what happens when the disillusioned fanboy doesn't actually move on? Who does the comic book fan turn into when they realize they hate the heroes? Welcome to Making a Monster, the show where we analyze the psychological and symbolic meaning behind our favorite villains. Today, we take a look at the sidekick turned supervillain with Syndrome.
You got me monologuing! I can't believe it. It's cool, huh?
Syndrome began life as Buddy.
Who the hell is Bucky?
No, Buddy.
My name is Incrediboy.
Fine, Incrediboy.
My name is
But Buddy!
Anyway, Buddy started out like so many of us, as a kid just trying to emulate his idol. He wanted nothing more in the world than to be the sidekick to his favorite superhero, Mr. Incredible. But Buddy, in a world full of superheroes, was sadly born without any powers. So, naturally, All Might gave him the quirk One for All, so that he can become the world's #1... Wait, no, wrong story. Right, what happens? Oh, right, Mr. Incredible sends him home to get grounded. Jeez, dude. Now, years later, as the villain Syndrome, Buddy plans to fool the world into believing that he is their greatest savior from catastrophes of his own making. Now with our origin story out of the way, let's dive into the fascinating psychology of this monologuing megalomaniac. The world of the Incredibles is one in which superpowered people naturally exist, but only in small numbers. What's more is that super abilities seem to, at least in part, be genetic, as all three of the Incredikids have superpowers. Now this setup naturally causes an imbalance in equality between those with powers and those without. Supers will naturally have an easier time being heroes, but that doesn't stop some normal people from trying.
Well, not every superhero has powers, you know. You can be super without them.
Right you are, buddy, and I mean, hey, to be fair, Syndrome's basically Iron Man. Take away all of his cool gadgets and he's still a
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Because Syndrome, despite being an ordinary person, is a brilliant inventor. He's created rocket boots, electro capture spheres, 0-point energy gauntlets, and giant freaking robots! All of this being achieved through nothing more than his sheer determination to make up for the superpowers he lacked. Now, the inequality of superpowers is dead center in Syndrome's mind. I mean, after all, his childhood hero rejected him from being able to achieve his dreams simply because he was born a mundane person without any superpowers. This realization has formed the core of Syndrome's ideology, which is, only those with power get respect.
Now you respect me, because I'm a threat. That's the way it works.
He makes good on this ideology through his actions. Syndrome makes his money by selling weapons that he creates to people who want to be respected and feared through the power they wield. He keeps the most powerful inventions for himself because that way he keeps himself on top in the balance of power. And he is willing to sacrifice the lives of countless people if it furthers his own ends. Syndrome's ultimate plan is to release his mechanical monstrosity, one which he perfected through the murder of countless former superheroes, upon the general population. The robot will run amok, cause chaos, and then
Syndrome will save the day!
And the plan will be complete, having cemented Syndrome in the mind of the public as their greatest hero. Buddy will finally have the superpowers and the recognition that he had always wanted as a child. Yet despite his plan being rightfully called out for just pretending to be a hero, Syndrome claims he's real. In fact, this whole scene is just fascinating, so we're going to talk about it for a minute. Let's take a look at his response here.
Oh, I'm real. Real enough to defeat you!
So, by this metric right here, and what he says, Syndrome believes the only thing that makes a hero is their strength. Goes right along with his worldview, might makes right, everything else is just performative. A superhero's core is being powerful. Just the fact they act heroic is all for show.
I'll give them heroics. I'll give them the most spectacular heroics anyone's ever seen!
And after all, if Mr. Incredible, the greatest hero in the world, his favorite hero, turned out to be so hollow, not actually living up to the ideals that he preached to the people who looked up to him.
You always say be true to yourself, but you never say which part of yourself to be true to.
Why wouldn't every other hero be just as fake? From the day he was rejected, he saw all heroes as hypocrites simply putting on an act so that people would love them. So he decided to become the hero killer and restore society to the ideals of heroism that, god damn it, wrong story again. Okay. In Syndrome's mind, it doesn't matter if he's the villain, so long as he's perceived as the hero. And one final bit that I love about this scene. Syndrome leaves his monologue declaring that when he's done being a hero, he'll sell his inventions to the rest of the world so that everyone, just like him, will have access to superpowers. That, at first, sounds pretty, good and heroic. I mean, rocket boots? I'll take a pair. Traffic's a nightmare. But it's what comes next that just twists it the wrong way. It makes you realize that he's so close to being a hero, but his ideology has gotten so warped that he can't help but be the villain. His final statement is that when everyone's super,
no one will be.
We know Syndrome doesn't actually sell all of his inventions. Just like with the weapons, he'll keep the most powerful things for himself. And so the gap in equality will remain. Only this time, supers will remain in hiding. Normal people will have a few new technological gadgets that seem like superpowers. And Syndrome will stand alone at the top with the most powerful weapons he has created for himself. Not exactly the egalitarian dream. Side note, can we talk about how all the villains of the Incredibles universe are just like really wild inventors? They don't have any superpowers of their own, they just build crazy stuff. And I mean, sure, the Underminer's a weird mole person, but so am I, so I think he still counts as a normal person, quote unquote. It's almost like there's this disturbing underlying message in The Incredibles about just accepting what you were born with, and whoa, that's a deep rabbit hole. Okay, not going down that. We're gonna step around. Back to Syndrome! Let's get back on point here. All else aside, Syndrome is a man driven by the desire to be recognized. He wants his hero to accept him as a ward, and when that fails, he demands to be acknowledged as his nemesis. He wants the world to admire him as a savior and brilliant inventor. He fights against the handicap he was born with in a world full of superheroes to try and become someone extraordinary, which is fascinating, and it makes his goals so relatably human. Don't we all strive to be more than we were born as? Don't we all want to live up to our idol? While his goals may be relatable, it's his ruthless pursuit of them with no regard for the people around him that turns him into a villain. Heroes are people with incredible power who use it to help others around them. They eat their Uncle Ben's nightly, they know their Spider-Man lore, you use that power with responsibility. But he never took the time to realize he had everything he needed to be a superhero without Mr. Incredible. He has every capability of stopping crime, but instead he enables it. Rather than using his talent to help the world, he selfishly wielded it to gain power and wealth. Syndrome may have started off wanting to be a hero, but in the end he turned into what he hated. Someone who was just pretending to be a hero. He even goes so far as to dress up as one. And in the end, that's what does him in.
No kicks!